Ash fell like gray snow over the ruins of Aurelia 9. The air was heavy with iron dust and the low hum of Velar patrol drones that drifted above endless rows of humans toiling under acid rain. The sky had lost its color. Even the sun seemed afraid to show itself. Inside a collapsed refinery, Dr. Mira Solon adjusted the broken lens of her ocular scanner. She was thinner now, her hands calloused and trembling, but her mind still worked. The Velar guards shouted in their harsh reptilian tones as they herded miners into plasma-lit tunnels. Mira watched the line of humans vanish into the earth, every one of them wearing the same dull collar that hissed whenever someone slowed down. Neural shackles, obedience in a wire. She whispered to herself. 5 years, and still no one came. Above, banners of the Velar Dominion fluttered in the acid wind, black cloth marked with crimson claws. The Overlord's voice echoed from loudspeakers, translated through the colony's comm system. Humanity serves the Dominion. Resistance will earn annihilation. No one answered. They never did. But hope, Mira knew, doesn't die in silence, it waits. Far across the Perseus Arm, light years away from the enslaved colony, Commander Elias Cade drifted through deep space aboard his solitary gunship, Erebus. The interior hummed with the soft rhythm of dormant power, the sound of a man and machine slowly rusting together. Cade sat in the pilot's chair, helmet off, staring at the dark streaks of stars outside. The years had carved lines beneath his eyes, and the faint scar across his jaw was the only souvenir of the war he no longer believed in. His armor, black vanguard plating with faded insignia, hung from the bulkhead like a ghost of duty long abandoned. He reached for a bottle, paused, and sighed. The ship's AI broke the silence. "Commander," said Argus, voice calm and almost human. "You've been awake for 72 hours. You should rest." "Rest," Cade murmured. "Tell me, Argus, what's the point of rest when there's nothing left to wake up for?" The AI paused. "Existence is a point, Commander. Purpose can follow." He almost smiled. Spoken like a machine that never buried a team. Cade pushed himself up, heading toward the maintenance deck. He lived by routines, checking weapon seals, recalibrating railguns, running diagnostics that didn't need running. Motion was easier than memory. Then, a faint distortion cut through the silence. A blinking red indicator lit the console. "Argus? Unidentified signal," the AI confirmed. "Encrypted. Terran Vanguard frequency, Class 7. Obsolete for nearly a decade." Cade froze. That code was used only by colonies beyond the Council's jurisdiction, by outposts humanity had promised to protect. He leaned over the controls, fingers flying across the screen as he decrypted the static. The voice that broke through was weak, trembling, half buried under distortion. "This is Aurelia 9, any human frequency. If anyone hears this, we're still alive." Cade's hand tightened on the console. For a moment, all he heard was the thrum of his heartbeat. Aurelia 9. A name he had erased from his records, because he had been there. Because he'd left. He swallowed hard. "Argus, origin coordinates. Confirmed. Sector Theta 9. Deep Velar space. Commander, that world was declared lost after the Compact War. I remember." His voice was low, bitter. "I was the one who declared it." Silence hung between man and machine. Argus finally said, "Commander, infiltration of Dominion territory is not survivable." "Maybe," Cade replied. "But dying out here waiting for ghosts isn't living either." He walked to the armory, lights flickering on in sequence as his presence was recognized. The walls were lined with relics from wars that never officially ended, coil rifles, plasma blades, grenades whose safety seals had corroded decades ago. He touched the armor chest plate, tracing the engraved name, Vanguard Unit 09, E. Cade. "Open prototype bay," he ordered. Hydraulic locks hissed as the sealed section opened. Inside, beneath layers of dust, rested his final project, Phantom System Armor, self-modulating plating capable of optical cloaking and reactive shielding. He designed it during exile, more therapy than purpose. Now it was purpose. Argus projected the ship's holographic schematic beside him. Power levels are unstable. Weapon output exceeds safety protocols. Perfect. He began fitting the armor piece by piece. The spinal sync clicked into place, neural interface biting cold against his skin. HUD systems flared alive, overlaying tactical data in a clean white arc across his vision. Argus, he said quietly. Upload terrain data of Aurelia 9. I want topography, troop density, satellite grid, everything you can steal from Dominion channels. Understood. He stood in front of the viewport as the ship's engines hummed to life. The dark reflected his own gaze back at him, a man too tired to be angry but too guilty to stop fighting. 5 years, he whispered. I left them 5 years. He sat in the command seat, tightening his gloves. The Erebus responded like a loyal hound waking from long slumber, reactor pulse deepening as plasma conduits lit along the hull. Argus broke the silence. Commander, permission to speak freely? Always. You are one soldier against an empire of billions. Logic suggests no outcome favors survival. Cade's lips curved into the smallest, coldest smile. Logic lost the last war. Let's see how faith does. Destination? He didn't hesitate. Aurelia 9. Erebus slipped into hyperspace with a burst of blue fire. The cabin lights dimmed to combat red. Data streamed across the HUD, warp vectors, radiation waves, Dominion patrol patterns, all irrelevant now. Cade leaned back, staring into the storm of light outside. The past replayed behind his eyes, his platoon pulling out of Aurelia 9 during the evacuation order, the cries from civilians left behind as Velar cruisers descended. He remembered the guilt in Myra's eyes, the scientist who begged him to stay, to help. He told her, orders are orders. He'd hated himself ever since. The AI's voice softened. Do you intend to save them, Commander? Or redeem yourself? He answered without turning his head. Both if I can. But redemption's optional. Hours passed in the glow of warp light. When the ship finally dropped out of hyperspace, Aurelia 9 filled the view, an iron sphere wrapped in storms and chains of orbital foundries. Velar carriers drifted like carrion birds around the planet. Cade studied the image quietly. They built a prison out of a world. Scans indicate planetary defenses active. Suggest stealth approach. Already in motion. He tapped a control pad. The Erebus shimmered, hull bending light until the ship faded into invisibility. Inside the cockpit, Cade's pulse slowed. Fear had no place here. He stared at the planet that had once trusted him and whispered, No more running. Argus opened a comm channel. Would you like me to broadcast a transmission? Cade shook his head. Not yet. They'll know I'm here soon enough. He adjusted his gauntlet, eyes reflecting the distant fires of the planet below. Prepare descent protocols. Atmospheric insertion at night-side latitude, near the old mining sectors. Confirmed. Engines rumbled, the ship descending into the storm-wrapped sky of Aurelia 9. Lightning streaked across clouds, illuminating metal towers and industrial ruins far below. Cade checked his weapons one last time, voice calm and steady. Argus, log entry, mission start, Aurelia 9. Logged. And add a note, Cade said quietly. If I don't make it back, delete every trace of this ship. Humanity doesn't need martyrs. It needs victories. Understood. He looked at the planet filling the viewport, his reflection merging with it. For them, he whispered. The Erebus vanished into the clouds, silent and unseen, descending toward a world that had been forgotten by all, except one man. Night covered Aurelia 9 in storm and firelight. The air shimmered with magnetic dust, and thunder rolled like the growl of engines. Hidden within the chaos, the Erebus skimmed low through cloud and debris until its hull kissed the edge of the upper atmosphere. Stealth field stable, reported Argus. Atmospheric interference masking our signature. Elias Cade gripped the flight controls. Good. Drop me on Sector 12, Old or District. Warning, heavy Velar patrol presence. I'd be disappointed if there wasn't. The ship cut engines, gliding through acid rain. Below lay a city swallowed by occupation, factory towers turned into barracks, refineries crawling with reptilian sentries, streets where human slaves moved like shadows. Cade's HUD flickered with hostile signatures. He donned his helmet. Initiating phantom mode. The armor whispered as light bent around him, his figure dissolving into the storm. He opened the hatch and stepped into open air. Wind howled as he plummeted toward the ruins. At 200 meters, grav boots flared. He landed silently on a half-collapsed structure and scanned the surroundings. The ghost of Aurelia 9 had returned. Cade moved between shattered walls, using thermal vision to map targets. 2 Velar guards patrolled a tunnel entrance below, plasma spears glowing faint blue. He dropped behind them, a blur in the rain. One turned too late. Cade's blade pierced through armor at the neck. The second opened his mouth to roar but never finished. The muzzle flash of a suppressed rail pistol ended him mid-breath. He dragged the bodies aside, collected their ID tags, and entered the tunnel. Steam hissed from every pipe. Sparks danced from exposed wiring. Human workers were chained to drill rigs, eyes glazed by the neural implants that forced obedience. Argus murmured in his ear, "Commander, neural control relays are routed through sub-level power grid. Then I'll cut the leash." He slipped deeper into the machinery halls, planting compact EMP charges on conduits as he passed. A few miners saw movement but dared not speak. The detonations rolled seconds later, short bursts of light, then silence. Shackles hissed and fell from wrists. A man stared at Cade's invisible outline through rising steam. "Who are you?" he whispered. Cade's voice came through distortion. "No one you need to fear. Run." The worker obeyed. Soon, others followed, stumbling into the rain, free for the first time in years. Argus relayed distant comm chatter. "Dominion Command reports unexplained grid failure. Multiple patrols mobilizing. Let them chase ghosts," Cade said. In the central compound, Overlord Exorvath watched surveillance feeds flicker. His reptilian features tightened. "Where are the patrols?" "Searching, High Commander," replied an officer. "Our scanners detect interference. Possibly local sabotage. Human hands cannot touch my systems," Exorvath hissed. "Find the source and bring me its head." He turned toward the massive window overlooking the colony. The storm outside flashed, illuminating his reflection, a creature born for domination now confronted by something he didn't understand, defiance. By dawn, half the Ore district was in blackout. Cade crouched in the shadow of a derelict transport crane, watching newly freed colonists flee into the slag plains. He sent Argus a data packet. "Transmit coordinates of safe zones. Begin mapping resistance potential. Already tracking. Population clusters forming around the old mag train depot." Cade nodded. "Good. They'll need hope before they need weapons." Through his helmet feed, a faint ping appeared, an encrypted human signal bouncing through abandoned relays. It pulsed twice, then vanished. Argus traced that. "Source appears to be Scientific Facility 3 Delta. Probability of survivor, 70%. Cade felt a chill. "That's Myra's old lab." He moved without hesitation, crossing rusted bridges and narrow ducts until the outline of the laboratory appeared below, half buried under slag, still pulsing with faint power. He entered through a breach in the roof. Inside, a holographic console flickered weakly. Data streams scrolled across the cracked glass. A familiar voice emerged from the static. "This is Dr. Mirasolin. If anyone can read this, someone's tampering with Dominion networks. If that's you, don't stop." Cade couldn't help a tight smile. "Still giving orders, Doctor?" He activated the terminal, transmitting a short reply through the same frequency. "Keep your head down. Help's here." Mira stared at the incoming message from her control room deep beneath the Velar reactor. Her pulse raced. Help? Impossible. But the message signature was Terran, authentic and coded with an old Vanguard encryption, one she hadn't seen since before the fall. She whispered, "Elias? The name felt foreign after so many silent years. That night, the rebellion began to breathe. Small sparks ignited across the colony, supply convoys vanishing, slave quarters unlocked, guard towers consumed by sudden explosions. Every act struck deeper fear into the occupiers. Argus monitored enemy transmissions. Velar Command believes multiple human cells are attacking simultaneously. Cade smirked. Good. Let them think I brought an army. Correction, said Argus. You are an army. He moved through the refinery complex, smoke rising from destroyed fuel lines. Dozens of freed workers waited in the shadows, clutching stolen weapons. He climbed onto a generator crate and addressed them through his helmet speaker. I'm not here to lead, he said, voice calm but sharp. I'm here to remind you who you are. You're not slaves, you're human. That used to mean something. A miner stepped forward. We don't even know your name. Cade's visor glowed faint blue in the dark. You don't need it. Just know this, the Dominion thinks you're broken. Prove them wrong. For the first time, laughter and murmurs filled the ruin. Fear cracked. Exorvatha's fury shook the command spire. How can one human cause this? He roared, slamming a clawed fist into the hollow table. Send the shock battalions! Burn every sector if you must! An officer stammered. High Commander, they call him the Ghost. None can find him. Then find his fire and drown it in blood! The Overlord turned toward the planet map. One blinking light pulsed on his display, the central foundry, his primary refinery. He smiled coldly. He'll strike here next. I'll be waiting. By the time night fell again, Cade stood on a ridge overlooking the foundry's glowing core. The storm had thickened, lightning clawing across the horizon. Argus report. Hundreds of enslaved workers inside. Heavy garrison presence. Reactor output unstable. Cade checked his weapon. Perfect. A good place for a revolution. He slipped into the ventilation grid, crawling above the main hall. Below, prisoners were lined up for processing, execution disguised as discipline. Exorvatha's soldiers gathered around, their leader watching from a raised platform. Cade's voice whispered through comms. Argus, time the charges. Detonation in 10 seconds. He leapt from the duct as the EMP charges detonated, plunging the hall into darkness. Screams, confusion, gunfire. Then came Cade's voice through the smoke. You chained the wrong species. He descended like a shadow, cutting through guards with precision, every strike measured. Freed captives seized dropped weapons. Plasma flashes turned the foundry into chaos. Cade reached the control deck. Exorvatha's projection shimmered to life, eyes blazing. You dare touch my Dominion, human? Cade stared up at the hologram. No, he said. I'm taking it back. He hit the detonator. The refinery exploded in a pillar of light that tore through the storm, scattering shrapnel and fury across the valley. When the smoke cleared, thousands of humans were free, and the name, Ghost of Aurelia 9, echoed through every labor camp on the planet. Mira received a transmission in her lab, a single phrase that made her hand tremble. The fire's lit. Get ready to run. She smiled through tears. Welcome home, Elias. And above the burning horizon, the Erebus appeared through the clouds, silent and watchful, as if guarding the dawn of something long forgotten. The sky over Aurelia 9 burned red. From horizon to horizon, plumes of smoke and lightning mixed into a storm of fire. The Velar Dominion's order had collapsed overnight. Human banners, scraps of cloth marked with crude symbols of freedom, fluttered from shattered towers. The rebellion had begun. In the heart of the wasteland, Elias Cade stood beside Dr. Mirasolin, watching the ruins of the foundry still burning. The wind carried the scent of ash and ozone. Behind them, hundreds of newly freed colonists gathered in silence, clutching salvaged rifles and scavenged armor. They're waiting for you to speak, Mira said softly. Cade shook his head. They don't need speeches. They need targets. She studied him, scarred, armored, eyes hollow but unbroken. You can't fight an empire with ghosts and courage alone. I only need to fight it long enough to break its chains. He turned toward the crowd. Argus, patch into the comm grid. The AI's voice crackled through his helmet. Connected. Local frequencies only. Dominion satellites remain hostile. Good. Let them listen. Cade raised his voice, not shouting, but with a weight that carried. You all know what they took from you. Your homes. Your families. Your freedom. But look at them now. He pointed to the burning horizon. They thought fear would keep you silent. Fear failed. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Someone raised a weapon. Others followed. He nodded once. We're taking back the planet. Sector by sector. Until nothing of them remains. Cheers broke out, not wild, but steady, disciplined. The kind of sound that meant belief had finally returned. Command Spire, Velar High Citadel. Overlord Exorvath watched the rebellion unfold from the panoramic viewport of his command chamber. Flames consumed half the colony. His underlings scrambled, shouting over one another, their scales slick with panic. High Commander, communication lines are collapsing. Human forces have seized the power cores. Exorvath's claws raked across the table, sparks flying. One human did this. He snarled. One! I will flay him alive before the sun sets. He turned toward his adjutant. Prepare the shock battalions. I will face him myself. Activate the planetary shield. If they want war, we'll bury them under our walls. In the underground control hub, Mira worked furiously over a holographic console. Lines of code scrolled as she bypassed Dominion encryptions. Sweat streaked her face, illuminated by the blue light. Cade stood behind her, scanning the tactical map projected by Argus. Exorvath's fortress sits in the Capitol Dome. He's drawing all remaining troops there. If that shield goes up, nothing gets in or out. Myra's fingers moved faster. I can disrupt it for maybe 15 minutes. After that, the generator will fry. 15 minutes is plenty. She paused. You can't do this alone. I've never been alone. He tapped the side of his helmet, where Argus' signal pulsed faintly. I've got him, and now I've got them. Mira looked up. You always had to carry everything yourself, didn't you? Cade's expression softened for the briefest moment. Someone has to. The assault began at dawn. The first explosion tore through the eastern wall of the Capitol Dome, scattering Velar patrols. Resistance squads surged through the breach, firing plasma rifles looted from their oppressors. Smoke cloaked the battlefield as the humans advanced, step by step. Above them, Cade moved like a phantom across rooftops, marking enemy emplacements and calling orbital drone strikes from Erebus. Precision fire rained down, slicing through Velar gunships. Argus, relay to Sector Bravo. Tell them to hold the southern corridor. Confirmed, replied the AI. Casualties minimal. Morale high. Cade vaulted onto a communications tower and surveyed the chaos below. The rebellion was no longer rumor, it was war. Myra's voice came through the comms. Shield destabilization sequence ready. On your mark. Now. A surge of light flickered across the sky as the planetary shield shimmered, cracked, then went dark. The capital was exposed. Cade dropped into the streets, leading a unit of volunteers toward the spire. Velar mechs rose from the smoke, massive bipedal constructs armed with plasma cannons. Cade activated his cloaking field and charged. He weaved between the machines, planting EMP grenades on their joints. One by one, they collapsed, burning from the inside out. The colonists behind him pressed forward, shouting his name, the Ghost, as they stormed the spire entrance. Inside, corridors blazed with alarms and gunfire. Velar troops fell back toward the throne chamber. Cade advanced steadily, each movement efficient, methodical, lethal. His armor smoked from plasma burns, but he didn't slow. Myra's voice cracked through static. You're almost there. Exorvath's command signal is broadcasting from the core. I know. He reached a massive door at the end of the hall. With a single charge, it blew apart. The Overlord waited inside, towering in ornate battle armor, his staff pulsing with violet energy. You finally crawl into my den, human, Exorvath growled. Do you truly believe you can defeat me? Cade raised his rifle. You're not my first mistake to fix. The Overlord lunged. The two collided with a thunderous crack, blade against staff, light against shadow. Sparks cascaded as metal shrieked. Cade ducked a swing, drove his knee into the alien's chest, then fired point blank. Exorvath staggered but countered, striking with a blast of plasma that hurled Cade across the room. His armor flickered. Argus warned. Shields failing. Vital signs unstable. Cade spat blood, forcing himself to stand. I've had worse days. He dodged another blow, slashing through a power conduit. Energy arced wildly, bathing the chamber in blue light. Exorvath advanced, grinning. You humans think courage is strength. It's just noise before extinction. Cade steadied his blade. Funny. That noise keeps getting louder. He triggered his gauntlet, releasing the last of his reactor energy into the blade. The plasma edge flared white-hot. He lunged, impaling the Overlord through the chest. Exorvath roared, thrashing as his armor melted around the wound. Cade leaned close. Tell your empire, we were never yours to keep. He twisted the blade, then ripped it free. The Overlord collapsed, lifeless, against the glowing reactor core. Alarm screamed. The reactor surged toward Overload. Argus' tone was calm, almost gentle. Critical chain reaction detected. Evacuation required. Cade looked at the melting control console. Can you contain it? Negative. Detonation imminent in 4 minutes. He opened the comm channel. Mira, get them out. Now. What about you? Someone has to keep the Overload stable until they're clear. Her voice broke. Elias, you can't. Don't argue. You still owe me a drink, remember? Pay that debt somewhere safe. He cut the channel before she could reply. Cade removed his helmet, setting it beside the core. His reflection shimmered in the blinding light. Argus, he said quietly. Record and transmit this message on all human frequencies. Ready. He spoke slowly, every word steady. To any human still in chains, Aurelia 9 is free. Remember that fear only works if you kneel to it. Stand. Fight. Live. Message logged. Then let's finish this. He pulled the reactor stabilizer free. The chamber erupted in light. On the surface, the Erebus rose from the storm, engines flaring. Mira stood on the ridge, watching the explosion consume the spire. A pillar of light pierced the clouds, brighter than the sun. Moments later, the neural shackles on every slave across the colony deactivated with a hiss. The Dominion fleet in orbit broke formation, retreating in panic. Argus' final transmission echoed through the comms. Mission complete. Commander Cade, signing off. Mira lowered her head. Rest easy, soldier. Weeks passed. The fires faded. The survivors rebuilt what they could. Where the spire once stood, they raised a statue of an armored man holding a broken chain. No name. No rank. Just a message carved into the base. One man lit the fire. The rest carried it. Across the stars, the transmission spread, from outposts, mining worlds, and forgotten stations. On every screen, Cade's voice repeated like a heartbeat. We are not conquered. We are awake. And in the dark corners of alien empires, the sound of that voice was the beginning of their nightmares.